Live. I think we'll
Oh
wait for
dear.
just a minute to see if there are any commercials running. I think that sometimes there are.
Hmm.
Live. I think. No. Yep, there's a commercial. Okay, cool.
How long are the
Usually
how long are the commercials usually?
30 seconds.
Oh,
Nothing too crazy. All right. Almost there. All
this
right. All right. We are live and people can hear us.
oh yeah.
What's up, Bjorn? How you doing, buddy?
It's all good.
Eh?
All good. How are you?
Oh man, dude, I couldn't be happier, man. I get to hang out with you and watch you draw and paint and relax on a beautiful Saturday in California. Can't really
Oh,
complain, man.
that sounds good. California.
Yeah. Oh, I gotta love California.
I've never been there actually. I want to go.
Really?
I gave my wife a 2 week LA trip. I just gave her my card and said we can go.
Nice, man.
And she went to Santa Barbara and LA and all sorts of stuff.
It's beautiful down there in like San Luis Obispo area. Like anywhere on the California coast, you are like pretty much in
Mm.
heaven. You know.
Yeah, she went to the Baywatch place, you know.
Oh, that's
I don't,
Malibu, right?
yeah, I think so. I don't know. But yeah,
Yeah,
it looks cool.
it's gorgeous, man. It is. I always said that it would be real. I'd have to have a very, very, very good reason to move out of California.
Mm. Are you scared of earthquakes?
In pretty much all but about 4 years of my life that I've lived here, I've only been through maybe three.
Oh, really?
So I mean, it doesn't really, it's not too crazy.
Mm.
But I was the in one of the last ones. I was in a 8-story skyscraper, and it was it was pretty scary being I mean, 8 stories is not that big of a deal, but it was really unnerving, man. The whole building was just swaying back and forth, and
I can imagine.
oh my god, dude, it was crazy.
I actually had a one earthquake, a sensation in Sweden.
They have earthquakes in Sweden?
I know this is the rare occasion of like out there was an earthquake out in this Baltic Sea, like and you could feel it slightly like close to Stockholm.
Wow.
But it wasn't like anything shaking. You started like the eyes started tracking left and right,
Yeah.
and you were like, "What the? Is something moving?" And you were like trying to focus on things, and they were kind of swaying. You're like, "Oh, that's a weird sensation." And then of course I paid notice to it and kind of checked the clock and things like that, and paid attention to the news. And they said like 2 days later that there was a small earthquake in the Baltic Sea.
Man, you're like, oh, that's what that was.
Yeah, exactly. That or UFOs.
Yeah, right. Somebody has like a gravity beam from satellite or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or an epic fart.
Yeah, that's probably it.
Deep
But
rumble.
somebody was having beans and a ton of beer, right?
Yeah, yeah, that must be it. It was in a university like 10 years ago. So.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, if you're gonna hear epic fart, it'd probably be at a university.
Most likely, yeah.
Uh, so what's up, guys? How's everybody doing? Let's see, we got some people coming in, so we're going to probably just gonna chat here for a couple more minutes until people start kind of filing in. We're expecting about 20,000 people today, so that'll be good. Nah, man, good. It's a good chill day. So yeah, we'll wait for a couple more minutes, and then I'll go ahead and show Bjorn's screen, and he'll show us how he works the magic of his magic, man. Um,
Hmm.
so yesterday we took on my stream we took a poll excuse me, a poll of what we wanted Bjorn to paint today, and the I think the final outcome was what was the final outcome?
There was a mountain twins or something,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
human alien hybrid was number three,
Hmm.
and number two was I don't
Oh, the
remember now.
Viking succubus.
Oh yeah, Viking succubus.
Yeah, I think yeah. So I think you decided on the mountain
The
twins.
number one, of course, the
Yeah,
most popular one.
awesome.
No need to go against the flow.
Yeah, right. Awesome, awesome.
Yeah, so I have tried not to think about it too much, so it's like a blank slate. So we'll see
So you've
what we
done
get.
no prep then. They haven't done like any.
Nothing.
So you're just gonna go right from the brain case. You're just gonna
Yep.
go right to town. Have no idea yet. You just, dude, that's awesome.
Yeah, I haven't not given it. Actually, I haven't really tried not to.
Oh, we're gonna see the whole thing right from the beginning, dude. That's awesome. It'll be really, really cool to see how you develop the shapes and develop the character around that idea for sure.
Hmm.
Yeah,
What was
yeah.
the actual topic? Do you remember?
It was
Something mountain twins from the north. Was that the?
yeah, Mountain Twin. Here, let me. I'll just look back on the history of our conversation yesterday. Where is it? Hold on one second. Looking at the wrong one. It's here somewhere.
Somewhere.
Of course. Of course, you can't find it. Oh, here it is. Wandering Twins of the Mountain.
Wandering twins of the mountain.
Wandering
Right.
Twins of the Mountain.
Right.
Awesome. Okay, all right. So I am going to show your screen now, and I will. Let's get started. What do you think?
Mhm. All right. So let's do this.
Okay.
Right. So, wandering twins of the mountain. Obviously, they're mountain folks. So, they have to be a bit rugged and worn. That was not the brush I was looking for.
These are not the droids you're looking for.
Uh, right. So, I'm thinking. Oh, that's. So, one big, one small, one strong, one weak. Uh, try to get some. I think I'll do one big, one small,
That'll be cool.
just as a contrast, you know. So let's say that's the big one. Maybe the small one is like an old man. He has maybe some disease, so
Mm.
he has to be like a toad, maybe.
Ooh.
You know, so he's like the wise Yoda, like fat guy with tiny legs.
Yeah. It kind of reminds me of the old Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. But of course, you can't ride.
You can't ride the guy, right?
You can't ride your brother. You know,
Right.
weird connotations. But maybe they're um, like see, they're just posing nicely. Okay, so let's focus on the brother. So he's going to be big and strong, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you got to have a catching silhouette. You know, like he's big and broad-shouldered. Maybe he's like they're tribal and have scruffy hairs, and he's the bull
Mm.
of the brother, and the other is the brains, obviously because he's
Right.
small. So just kind of trying to get some good silhouette that we can start working into. Um, I like to. I'll show you actually a cool little trick I've been doing recently. Uh, it's about always when you're sketching in Photoshop, right, you always tend to do it grayscale,
Hmm.
and it for me it gets boring after a long time. Like you wanna have some flavor to it.
Right.
And I kind of figured out this way of um, um, let's try to get some good contrast. Um, Tinting your grayscale, midtones, not midtones, shadows, by like making a layer. This should be highlights, right? Oh shit, that was the wrong one. You like make a for the highlights and the shadows.
Oh, interesting. So you doing three color balances, one for highlight, or two color balances, one for highlights and
Two.
one for shadows?
Yeah, so you have shadows, light, and then you have a desaturation underneath it all, um, and all of them set to color.
Interesting.
And 1 second.
Yep, yep, no
Sorry.
problem.
Yeah. What do you want? Okay,
Yeah, guys. Well, so we have a Google Hangout or a Google form for you. If you guys have actual questions that you want me to ask Bjorn, go ahead and use that Google form, and I will feed them to Bjorn, the hungry man over here, whenever he's ready. All right.
Yeah, sorry about that. My
Oh yeah, that's okay. It's all good.
kids are
Life
just
life goes on, man. Life goes on.
yeah. So yeah. So you by you having a desaturation set to color, you're not going to shift your values anything. So when you sample, um, you're sampling. Oh, that was the wrong layer. You're sampling in grayscale and then adding the color balance on top because you're always desaturating.
That is sick, man.
So you can go in and change as you wish, and you will always have like nice instead of grayscale,
Hmm.
you have a toned, so you can touch sketch in tones.
That's awesome. So you find that that gives you a lot better, lot more like random idea generation.
I think yes, but it also helps to spice things up,
Hmm.
so it isn't so boring
Right.
um, to look at. It can easily become samey if everything is grayscale, and
Right.
and when you tweak it a little bit, it's just more fun.
Right.
And it also helps to build a base because you have usually um, warm shadows, cold light, or
Right.
something of it. So you get a little bit of um, that. Right. So I want to start. We got that pose down somewhat. So I want to start thinking about what they actually do, right? So he's the bull, um, and usually, how one should do it is that you start thinking about thumbnails, sketching it small, um, like the classic thumbnail, little shape exploration and so on.
Right.
But the biggest problem for me is when you do that is most of the kind of thumbnailing is done in pure silhouette, and I feel that is good, but it's like this randomness of everything is possible. So I tend to think of it, in three basic shapes, like big, medium, and small
Hmm.
shapes.
Like the layered cake effect, right?
Yeah, in a way, like if you're gonna make a composition of something, if it's an equal sized shapes, that composition is not going to look interesting.
Right.
That's purely going to be based on placement, right?
Right.
You have two equal shapes over here versus one equal shape on the other side, then that becomes the interesting aspect.
Right.
But but if you're going to have difference in the size as well and shape, you uh, composition, out of that basic.
Right. Becomes much more interesting to the eye.
Yeah, and also more tangible because you can understand that, okay, I'm having too many big shapes. I
Right.
gotta start distributing smaller information somewhere. And then you can see it in an abstract way, like where your design, not what you're designing, but just purely based on shape.
Right. Yeah, it's
You know,
I love the fact that you think about that too because I try to point that out whenever I'm doing sculpts and designs on my own stuff is making sure that you follow the core design concepts, right?
yeah, yeah, exactly. And then when you add value to it, the local value of objects. And the problem of that though is like I see a lot of thumbnails. They start adding light
Mm,
in the thumbnails, and that's a really really dangerous thing because you're influencing the actual design with light information.
mm,
A dramatic light is not designing. You're adding dramatic light to something that you don't know.
right. So it becomes like the shape of the light that's hitting whatever you're designing helps or takes away from
The
the
actual
actual
design.
design, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so what I tend to do is again, just for kind of for you to understand, is I group it into three: dark, medium, and light,
Mm-hmm.
so that you can, out of that, there's still an indefinite amount of different solutions, between big, medium, and small shapes, and um, uh, dark, medium, and light
Right.
values, and you design based on those principles purely without light when you're doing your thumbnails,
Mm-hmm.
and uh, and you can just look at it in an abstract way, like what am I designing in a composition, rather than here's a shoulder pad, here's buttons.
Right.
When you're doing it that abstract, you can just make something that looks good without knowing what it actually is.
Right.
And the more you kind of approach it that way, the more you put that thinking into your process, right?
Right. Yeah.
And the more you can truncate those steps. So I'm sketching now based on a base pose,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm thinking about where is a big shape, where is a medium shape, where is a small shape, and at the same time kind of thinking about the value design, but I'm not adding it yet because I'm purely thinking about uh, shapes and details at the moment.
Right. So like right in even in the shoulder pad, right? You have the one big piece on the shoulder pad, yeah, and then you have
Mm,
two, well, a medium piece and then a smaller piece. Right. Same thing
exactly.
with the straps too, right? You have the big one that goes across the chest. You have a smaller one that goes from the shoulder pad, and then another one on the neck.
Exactly. And I don't necessarily know what this is at the
Mm-hmm.
moment, and I'm maybe not even enjoying the shapes, but I'm starting to plot it out and kind of try to get um understanding for what I'm actually designing. So I'm thinking like these kind of crazy wild guys
Mm-hmm.
with tattoos. So I'm going to leave most of his chest that's not drawn out naked,
Right.
and add tattoos to it, like as a smallest amount of kind of detail density.
Right.
So I'm thinking, maybe like rows of tattoos.
Interesting. So when you're doing this stage, you're not thinking you're mainly thinking of just shapes, right?
Yeah, designing designing the shapes, designing the character at the same time because I've done thousands of.
Right. So you're not really thinking about like the full 3D shape yet, right? You're morely just kind of focusing on more of
Eh, yes and no. I'm thinking about the 3D shape as well because I'm thinking of wrapping volume.
Mm,
Where is the volume leading?
yeah, that's true.
Uh, so I'm thinking what's behind, what's in front, uh, everything to make interesting design choices, right?
Right.
Not purely on a 2D kind of graphic design approach, but actual 3D space, because you want an interesting character in full 360, right?
Right.
So that when the character turns around, it's interesting there as well. He should be designed from the side and not just a
And
kind of graphic design projection.
and from a 3D character artist, I really really appreciate that.
Mm. Yeah, I think that's why, like over these years, been a lot of people modeling my stuff.
Mm,
Is because I do think about you know the whole 360 of a character,
right.
and maybe a design doesn't look that sexy from the front. Some design elements, but when you start turning the character, it actually translates into an interesting solution.
Right. It's not just for designing a character from one angle.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe you have details on the hip, but when he turns, that actually makes sense rather than from the front.
Right.
And another kind of proof of that thinking is that over the years, also a lot of people have cosplayed my designs.
Right. You had a Star Wars piece that somebody cosplayed, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That's so awesome.
Someone did a Sith I designed.
That's got to be one of the coolest things to see. Like, just randomly, somebody like totally
Yeah,
cosplayed your design. You're like, somebody likes it. Yes.
yeah, exactly. I think the first cosplay was 2007.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I worked on a game called Viking Battle for Asgard,
Nice.
which I did loads of characters for. Was one of my first contracts when I started out in 2006 7, and I think it was Playboy or some uh, one of those magazines. They
Mm-hmm.
even did a professional photo shoot dressed
No,
up as
no way.
characters. Yeah,
That's awesome, man. We won't be
yeah.
showing that image here, unfortunately.
Yeah. I think yeah, some of one of those magazines they
Yeah,
uh,
that's
had
what
the main
Google's
bad
for.
the bad boss, and one of the good main characters was Freya,
Mm.
and they were kind of posing, mm, scantily dressed.
Oh, that's awesome. Not much better than scantily dressed Viking women, shield maidens, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Are you? By the way,
Funny.
so that reminds me. Are you watching the that show Vikings?
Oh, definitely.
So what do you think? Is it pretty like is it pretty
It's
right on, or is it like pretty far fetched kind of thing?
no, it's probably quite bang on actually.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean it's Discovery Channel or
Yeah,
History Channel
history.
that
Yeah,
yeah that kind of making it, so they have to be quite good at
yeah.
uh,
They do
keeping
all those like
facts.
time period pieces and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
So in your the way that you do concepts, right? Do you usually do it this way, or do you have different methods about going about starting? Like, what's your usual?
Um, like professionally, everyday style is this way. Like I do a pose, I start designing, and this is like more or less actual designing. That you don't start painting yet.
Mm-hmm.
You're thinking about the shapes, you're thinking about the placement of information, and also it's cost efficient because sending a boss client boss
Well, they can be bosses too.
yeah, or bossy.
Yeah.
No, yeah, a client. uh, I usually do three options, design options,
Mm-hmm.
and I do that in around for like 4 hours, full drawn value design on three characters.
So 3 characters
And
in 4 hours is usually what you turn out.
yeah, exactly. In general, and uh, more fleshed out characters. I mean, if I do thumbnails, like more or less like I'm doing now, I can crank out more. But
Right.
also, if I have prepared with references and things like that, it goes quicker. So what I usually do when I have a hard time knowing like what am I actually supposed to design, I do a mood board where I spend like a couple of hours googling
Mm-hmm.
cool looking things that's thematically somewhat correct.
Right.
So let's say I'm designing, in this case, this guy, right? I would check like rednecks. I would check village people. I would check maybe sadhus of India. These death worshipping uh, crazy people that eat uh, ashes of humans and things like that.
What?
They have these crazy hairdos, dreads, and they sleep in. Uh, they drink their own piss and things like that.
That's crazy.
They believe in like torturing the body,
Wow.
and yeah, they're just vagrants, kind of. Anyways, they look awesome. I would start collecting cool looking things, maybe some sort of totems, maybe bear traps,
Mm-hmm.
all these kind of somewhat thematically coherent
Right. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
things, and place them in a big picture. So I can kind of strafe around this image, looking at different things, being inspired by different things. Like, so let's say I look at a bear trap, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm digging the mouth design, the metal claws.
Right.
Maybe I'm kind of keying into those. That's kind of cool. But let's say, in this instance, I kind of like the mechanic of it,
Mm-hmm.
with that springboard, but purely based on the shape of it. So maybe I'll place it into the shoulder design as a vanity aspect rather than a functional.
Mm.
Just that kind of complexity of a mounted metallic part on the shoulder, just so it looks kind of makeshift. And, maybe some hanging saw-like metal shape.
That's cool.
That
Yeah.
kind of thinking, rather than I need a shoulder pad, and you just go googling shoulder pad metal or shoulder pad mountain man.
Ah. So
What
you're keeping with the theme of the character instead of just going, oh, I need a cool shoulder pad.
exactly? So you get inspired by everything but the actual thing you're going to have to design. Let's take a looking at some scary kids doll. Maybe it's wrapped in some sort of cloth and string and maybe an acorn for a head.
Hmm.
That could be like, oh, I like the way it's wrapped, right? The
Right.
doll. Maybe you can start wrapping his leg in a similar fashion.
Right.
So
Almost taking abstract stuff that isn't necessarily, oh, Googling a Viking kind of,
exactly,
or Googling a mountain man.
exactly. So that's the kind of thing I would do research about. So you get inspired by things that you might need rather than the actual things that you have to draw.
Right.
And in that way, you're going to limit yourself from repeating what everyone else has already designed.
Right.
Like I've been teaching at the CG Master Academy for 3 years, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I tell my students is be careful of adding other people's concepts into like the mood board. It's because they have done research and come to their conclusions, right? So if you're going to be inspired by their stuff in a way,
Right.
there's a higher chance of repeating, someone's design rather than the kind of abstract approach.
Right. Yeah. So taking more from like real life instead of other people's artwork.
Well, more random things, right? So if you're going to say, let's say you're going to design a sci-fi character, and there is no real life uh, equivalent, right, to Google. There is no sci-fi laser shooting mega robot.
Wait. There's no sci-fi shooting laser shooting robot.
No, mega robot.
Oh,
No.
Oh, okay,
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. So that's a bit hard to Google, right? So
Yeah.
it's better to be inspired by maybe espresso machine
Mm.
or the inside of a CT scanner.
Wow, that's
Um,
crazy.
so maybe you'll get inspiration from there instead of googling huge sci-fi robot which someone else has designed.
Right. That's a really, really good way to make sure that all your designs stay fresh.
Mm, yeah, yeah. I think that's like a healthy approach
Mm.
where you're exercising your imagination at the same time and not just copying, right? Because you add these trinkets of information constantly rather than one to one
Right. Uh,
mapping.
so we got ready for a couple of questions.
Sure.
All right. So one of the big ones is aspiring concept artists and portfolio work. Right. So one of the
Mm.
questions is, you know, um, do you have in a portfolio, should you have, as a concept artist, should you have more polished pieces, or is it better to have like character turnarounds and sketches and showing your idea generation type art?
All right. So first, you need to classify, like, not you as in who I'm talking to, but as an artist.
Not me personally. Okay, got it.
Yeah. Like, what are you gonna be a concept artist? There's this vague line of illustrator, concept artist, then
Hmm.
they're a concept illustrating concept artist, or marketing art, or
Right.
there's loads of different things that goes under the category concept art, right?
Right.
But as I see it, a concept artist in its true sense is a visual idea maker.
Hmm.
You visualize a concept rather than a pretty picture in itself is not that important. It's the idea, the generating that idea and pursuing it is what a concept artist should do, right? But present it in a way where it's designed actually.
Right.
Like if you take a like a whatever microwave oven, it's a designed product, right?
Hmm.
And you have the door in a specific proportions from where the button is, where the timer thing is.
Hmm.
It's all based on what looks good, but on design principles, and that you gotta incorporate into your design regardless, right? Because it's a product you're designing, but you also got to pursue the design.
Right.
So as I see it, as a concept artist, if you would apply to where I work,
Hmm.
um, I would primarily
Too much meat
look.
over there,
Oh yeah,
huh?
the meat barrel is deep.
Yeah.
Um, I would look at design first, right?
Right.
Ideas. What kind of ideas are you designing?
Hmm.
Um, is it a unique idea? Is it a half-naked woman with a big gun, or is it actual cool stuff like that? Like some concept artists actually, they have a good idea, and when you see a good idea from a concept artist, you
Hmm.
instantly see it, you react to it.
Right.
While if you Google mechs and look at the images, it's just this waterfall of similar looking mechs
Mhm.
until you see an interesting one.
Right.
Like,
Stands out from the crowd, basically, right?
yeah, like, what's his name? Aaron Beck. Uh, his mechs when they came, hit internet first. It's like,
Right.
everyone started doing his stuff, his kind of take on it.
Right.
And the Metal Gear their period of, everyone started doing Metal Gear like mechs. It's, you can see it's cyclical, and as soon as someone gets a good idea, an actual unique idea, everyone's like, wow, that's cool, that's presented in a great way, I want to do that too.
Right.
But that's what I look at first. Is there unique aspects to it? Because I think, like, technically you can always learn to draw. It just takes man hours.
Mm.
What's the hardest is the ideas that you generate.
So where
That
do
takes
you
time.
so what do you do for your own studying? Like do you look at like certain areas of design for your own personal reference? Like do you ever go into like automotive design or product design and try to get inspiration from there?
Yeah, definitely. I try to come up with, like I said, the mood board, the kind of theme.
Mhm.
Like I designed the steampunk Star Wars
Mhm.
Darth Vader, based on a Russian locomotive, steam train engine.
So awesome. Was that the Vader one that you did?
Yeah.
Ah, yeah, okay.
So that, like, I thought, like, a massive train like that would be a cool personality to try to convey in a design, right? So that's what I just focused on.
Right.
And it's visible in an artist, an aspiring artist that actually uh, is designing something,
Mhm.
rather than copying.
Right, yeah.
Um, and of course, I look at skills, like how far back are they? Um, can then we also have to think, if do they have a blog? Can you track their progress?
That's
Like,
interesting to hear too.
can I teach this person something when they join? Or they're set in their ways. What's the evolution of the artists up to this day? Like, there was an interesting situation where we're going to hire a new artist because
Mhm.
one left to greener pastures, and we had this one seasoned guy applying,
Yeah.
and one new guy. And the seasoned guy obviously was rocking his style, uh, and all these things, very impressive work. But then we looked at the whole body of work. We were like, he's very one trick pony. He
Hmm.
can do his thing wonderfully, but what use will we have? So we looked at the new guy. He wasn't skilled as the other guy, but that you can always learn that. But he started showing some really cool ideas, fresh takes on them, like an artist.
Right.
And it was like, those ideas are actually better. They don't look better, but they're actually better. So we hired the new guy.
That's awesome to hear, man. Because really, I mean, the full job of a concept artist is to come up with concepts, right? And then if
Yeah,
you can make it look good, then that's an extra icing on the top, right?
exactly. And so let's say, it depends, to answer the question. It depends on where you want to work and with what.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to go for, let's say you're going to try to work for the Halo guys,
Uh huh.
you want to have sci-fi stuff. You don't want to see an orc.
Right.
They have no use for your amazing abilities to design an orc. Uh, but design a sci-fi thing, and obviously don't do Master Chief.
Right.
Do your own take on Master Chief.
Right. And don't
What
make
can
it
you
look
do?
like Doom either.
Yeah, no. Just focus on your own ideas.
Right.
One guy told me, like, if you're gonna hire someone, you have to convince the company why they should hire you. Why should you be a body in the workplace instead of someone else?
Mm-hmm.
Give them a reason. Then you can argue how big is that reason? You know, is it because you're technically better, faster, What is the reason why you should be hired?
Right.
Because no one can match your math skills in rendering. That's fine. But then you're probably not a concept artist. Then you're an
Right. Yeah.
illustrator.
Right. You're an illustrator. Yeah.
So then you have to start tailoring your portfolio based on that.
Right. So basically, what you want to do is you want to figure out what type of concept artist you want to be first, and
Yeah,
then focus on um, the type of work that you want to do. Right.
exactly.
So like, if you really love mechs, right, then
Start designing your own mix.
do your own mechs, but do it in an interesting way, right? Because
Exactly.
you want to make sure that you come up with fresh ideas. Look at different things. Um, all kinds of
Yeah.
crazy stuff.
How do you stand out? If you're designing a cool mech, you know, then you're just going to do it purely on presentation.
Hmm.
Maybe that's not that interesting. Maybe you won't get hired. Maybe you will get a lot of likes. Oh, a pretty picture. But in reality, the people hiring just go, "Ugh, another one of those mechs."
Yeah, just another one in a bunch, right? You're like, oh, it's a pretty picture, but I've seen 1,000 of these.
Exactly.
So at this point you feel fairly decent about this guy's design.
Somewhat. I mean, if it would be work, I would start designing two more versions of him.
Hmm.
Uh, I'll just kind of tackle the brother and see where that leads me to, what changes I need to do to the first guy, because they need to work together, right? I'm not designing. I'm designing them as twins, so they need to gel.
Right.
So I have to take his designs choices into him. What will I mirror?
How do
What
they
will be
how do they connect? How do they become one?
exactly? So maybe this guy is the tattooed guy. Maybe the small guy is the tattooer.
Oh, the tattooer.
Yeah,
Ah.
that would be cool. Maybe he's also like just he doesn't do any fighting. Maybe he just it's like has painting gear and a full body tattoos constant all over, and like crippled legs. Maybe that would be cool. So you want to have. So he's quite long, elongated shapes, right? Maybe we need to mirror that so that he's sitting here on this ledge. Maybe he's has some sort of cloth he's wrapping in so that it's easier to carry him.
And you don't have to draw legs.
No, he's going to be crippled
Yeah,
legs,
right.
right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Maybe stumps.
There you go.
Cut. Yeah, amputated. Yeah, so that's my recommendation if you would be applying to where I work.
Right.
Just great ideas, pursue them. Do show at least one orthographic, uh, just so you understand it, and you have to make that orthographic correct. Check your ellipses so that when you're turning the character, that the ellipses are actually in correct perspective. Let's say you have a belt like that
Yeah.
in the front, and then on the back view, the belt is like that. It's like, wait a minute, if an ellipse of the hip is like that, and then the backside goes up like that, behind the character.
Right.
So in the back view, it actually should be like that, and then this is the front.
Oh, interesting because it's pointed down anyways.
Exactly.
Nuggets of gold, man. Nuggets of gold.
Yeah. And you see it when people don't know how to do it.
Right.
If they never modeled their own concepts or
Right.
worked with a 3D artist to actually model it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's extremely visible.
So I got another question if you're ready.
Shoot.
All right. So you do mostly like freelance style work, right? So how would like if you're looking to do like networking and trying to get work, how do you think the best way to go about doing that is in a broad general sense, I guess?
That's an interesting topic, actually, um, because I wouldn't be able to answer you that now. Like when I started 10 years ago, my first contract 10 years ago, approximately, that's where I was starting. I had already started networking,
Mm-hmm.
building my name, associating my name with certain standards, showcasing my design abilities rather than pretty picture abilities
Mm-hmm.
and all these things. Right. So, but that was 10 years ago. Like I guarantee you the industry is completely different.
Hmm. Interesting.
Uh, I could, based on my experiences, try to give examples of what to do,
Mm-hmm.
but it's actually,
So let's say maybe from like a hiring aspect, like what would you how do you find artists? I guess you could say. I guess would be a better question.
um, how we actually find artists to hire.
Right. Yeah. So what like where do you guys usually go to look for people? Like how do you find people that are looking for freelance work that are of the right caliber that you need?
Yeah, it's a tricky one, actually. We used to check CG Hub
Mm-hmm.
when it was functioning, or up,
Right.
rather. Um, but a lot of these go by kind of word of mouth.
Mm.
And like we at my place, we just kind of say that we have an opening, and people tend to be interested,
Right.
send their stuff in, or we have cold calls, so to speak, with portfolios coming in, and we save the ones we like.
Mm.
And when there is an opportunity coming, uh, we check the list.
Mm.
What does their portfolio look like now? Are they available?
So here's another good question. Then I think to follow up on that is, like, let's say I'm a concept artist. Let's say I'm a character concept artist, and I feel like my portfolio is in a really a spot that I feel comfortable applying for jobs, and
Hmm.
I want to just I've made the decision myself to just there's these 5 companies that I really want to work for, right? So even if they're not
Hmm.
hiring, I would like, I want to send my stuff to them so they can have it for when they're looking, right? Is that
Hmm.
kind of a common practice, or is that like more of like a no, like don't bother us unless we're actually looking?
Um, I mean, it depends on your skill set, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what to expect. Uh, if you're fresh off the boat, so to speak, and want to get work as your first gig, I would probably recommend, to start small,
Mm-hmm.
go to mobile companies, or, make these smaller games, and get an experience that way
Mm-hmm.
before you start chasing the big boys, because experience is extremely valuable,
Right.
regardless of what you want to be. The ability to co-work is just as important as being a good artist, right?
Right. That's true.
It's so easy to forget that aspect, and when you're in your art cave and eating cheese
Cold,
doodles.
yeah, cold pizza and cold
Hmm.
coffee
Yeah,
at 4 o'clock in the morning. Yeah.
yeah, screaming at the neighbor's dog.
So I'm not the only one that it happens to. That's awesome. That's good to know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I mean, it's really tricky, on the topic of how to get noticed.
Yeah. I mean, it's
But
different for everybody too, right? It's not. There's no like one trick that you can do um,
mm,
that will get you the job that you want.
yeah, but one thing I noticed in my experience is doing fan art but in an interesting way where you stand out.
That's another huge topic too, is fan art, you know?
Mm.
So,
I don't. Oh yeah, go ahead, please.
so I
Sorry.
was just gonna elaborate on that. So, like, as somebody that is looking at, let's say you're still within the hiring aspect of this conversation, right?
Hmm.
And you see somebody with a lot of fan art in their portfolio. That does that hurt, or do you think, like, how do you guys feel about fan art for concept artists?
Then again, it comes to the topic. Oh, what have you done with the fan art? Is it
Mm-hmm.
a one-to-one copy of the original, or have you done your twist on it?
Mm.
Is it standout? Like 2008, CG Society
Mm-hmm.
had a weekly uh, art competition in 3D where they had a topic for a week,
Yeah.
and everyone started designing for it, right? And I just randomly stumbled upon it, and it was steampunk Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like almost like randomly generated, and I was like, "That's pretty cool." So I clicked it,
Yeah.
and I looked inside the thread, and I was like, the pickings are slim. There's not enough reference.
Mm-hmm.
Was none, almost, like maybe 2 3 images. I was like, oh, come on, it should be better. So I took it upon myself to start designing um, Star Wars characters in
Hmm.
steampunk, and contributing to the reference pool.
Nice.
So I made a post like, oh, here's some more if you want to use it, and I just kept on doing it, and obviously steampunk Star Wars became a thing.
Right.
Uh, one awesome thing plus one awesome thing makes,
Too many,
yeah,
many more awesome things.
yeah, exactly. So um, that took off like crazy. It went viral everywhere. I got emails from like art directors at Disney and Lucas film, and
No kidding, huh?
people just saying, like, awesome. It was on the official website of Star Wars, and you know
Dude, that is awesome.
Huffington Post, CNET, uh, everywhere
Yeah, that's crazy, man. So,
since 2008. And I have had like 6 million hits a year on my website since since then.
that is great. So the moral of the story is you never know, right? Make some cool stuff,
Exactly.
get it out into the community, and if the community likes it, you'll know.
Yeah, exactly. So I did like this recently, like a couple of months ago, just some fun tribute to Samus, uh, the best Super Metroid,
Oh yeah. Yep.
Samus or whatever you say.
Samus.
Yeah, funny, exaggerated proportions and so on. Put it on my sketch Tumblr,
Yeah.
uh, and that got tons of traffic and re-blogs or whatever you say on Tumblr. I don't know, re, uh, retweet? No, that's Twitter.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Retumbled,
Yeah.
tumbled,
Retumbled.
and that started picking up as well.
Right.
And I did a couple of years ago the same thing. I did an action scene with Super Metroid, like running and blasting some alien, and also my take on Zelda
Uh huh.
fighting. What's his name? The bad guy.
Ganon.
Ganon, yeah.
Yeah.
And that also became viral. It was, everywhere.
Yeah. It's funny. I
And then,
it,
yes, sir.
it really is. So fan art is like, it's okay as long as it's different, like, don't regurgitate the same thing over and over again. The idea is that if you're a concept artist, you could take something but make it different in some way, right? Like, elaborate
Yeah,
on what's already been established and add
yeah,
your own flair to it.
yeah, exactly. The problem with fan art is that theoretically you can't sell it,
Yeah, it's
right?
true.
Because it's not your IP, it's not your property.
Right.
how much you even twist it. I mean, I've sold a few prints of the Star Wars ones,
Mm-hmm.
but I did that at the end of it. I didn't do it when they were at the
Yeah.
peak because that's some dangerous waters to be.
Yeah, right. Be careful whatever you're doing. If you're doing fan art, just be aware and be careful.
Yeah, don't try to sell it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, you
Yeah.
know, go viral with it, get traffic by all means, but be careful of
Right. Exactly. I
making
mean,
money on
yeah. Use that to push your other original stuff.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. It's really, you see all these people sell prints of fan art. Theoretically,
Yeah. They can all get their ass suit off. Really.
yep, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That's the last thing you want.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like I'll go to some of like these like little smaller like Comic Cons or these smaller cons, and
Mm.
you walk down like the artist alley, and everybody's got like literally everybody has fan art that they're selling $20 prints
Mm.
for. I'm like,
Yeah,
how does this even happen? This is crazy. Like,
yeah,
really?
exactly.
So literally all those people could technically get in trouble.
Theoretically, yeah, it's
Yeah.
not their IP.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
IP belongs to the creator, the original creator, not
Right. The owner, whoever owns the rights.
exactly.
Yep.
But chances are they're going to chase you and go take you to court for a couple of $20 prints, most
Probably
likely.
not, but
Yeah,
you never know. Depends on how
yeah,
they're feeling that day.
yeah, exactly. And there was always these people stealing illustrations and making their own card games, like
Mm,
Hearthstone or whatever.
yeah.
I'm not saying Hearthstone
No, no,
is
yeah,
done
yeah,
yet,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
but
yeah. We're not making that claim, guys. We're not making that claim.
yeah, but all these illustrators are reacting. We're like, wait, hey, that's my art. I did it for this client.
Yeah,
I'm gonna send my client
yeah.
a notification and expect to get emails from Skyrim's lawyers.
Right. I'll just send you a bill, man. All right. Well, you made this much, so we're just gonna go ahead and have you pay this $10,000 bill, and then make sure that that's in our mailbox in the next 2 weeks. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, there you go. Ooh,
Oh, that's awesome, man.
yeah. That's a situation you don't want to be.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, that's the thing too is that, and I see some people that are doing like Patreons
Mm-hmm.
that do fan art, and I'm like, like, wow, man, that's just dangerous territory, man. Dangerous territory.
Definitely. Uh, okay, there's a gray zone. Fan art, what they're actually paying for. They're not
Hmm.
actually paying for the fan art per se. They're paying for the being a part of the process, right?
Yeah.
Um, so that's a bit of a gray zone. What actually is it? Is it okay?
Right. Right. And that's just if you're like, I guess the basic rule of thumb, I guess you could say, is it's fine to do, and correct me if I'm wrong from your point of view, but I'd say it's fine to do, but don't sell it. Don't make if you're as long as you're not making money off of it, it's fine, right?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah.
And then it comes to the topic of studies.
Hmm.
Can you sell prints of studies of someone else's original artwork?
Oh, that's interesting too.
Uh, there was one guy, I won't name any names, but he uh, he took a photo and did a more or less direct copy of it, but changed some colors and made it a little bit more artsy,
Uh-huh.
and claimed in not word by word his original art, but he just said, here's a new piece from me. And then people
Hmm.
were starting like, hey, wait a minute, I've seen this photo. And they found the original photographer.
Yeah.
And of course, it became a flame war.
Uh.
Uh,
Yeah.
and the original author actually was contacted by this artist that did the study
Hmm.
and was selling prints out of it. And in the end, the original photographer artist, he said, it's fine.
Yeah.
We can sell
Well.
some prints out. It's
Well.
okay. Just credit me.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a lot of times too, man. Like, I mean, we're all relatively cool people. Like it goes a long way to just reach out to the artist. And say, hey,
Yeah,
do you mind if I blah blah blah? You know.
yeah, exactly.
A lot of times, depending on what day you catch the artist and what you're gonna do with it, like, sure, what the hell, you never
Hmm.
know. It could keep you from a lot of heartache just by reaching out.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. And I worked for Sega for a couple of years,
hmm
and they're extremely uh, aware of IP rights and what you're allowed and not allowed to do, and they're really, really careful with it.
hmm
Like I was employed by them for doing Total War and Alien Isolation and many other projects.
oh, you worked on Alien Isolation?
Yeah,
Oh, dude, that was such a beautiful, beautiful game.
yeah, I did loads of previews for it.
Oh, that's
That
awesome.
was the last thing I worked before I left them.
You did character or did you do environment stuff too?
Both and weapons.
And weapons.
Mm.
That's
I
crazy.
was the only concept artist on it for a while, for like a year.
Damn.
So I did loads of previews and scenes, and before it was the original or the actual idea, it
Mm.
was a period of experimentation and tests. And I was just sitting and concepting with the lead 3D guy. We were
Dude,
brainstorming.
isn't that like I don't know, man. Like I can't wait for those types of times when you can just start exploring ideas and like really getting into the nitty gritty and having tons of fun just sitting chatting with people of like mind and
Mhm.
coming up with like these super dope ideas. Like
Definitely, but that comes back to that topic. What kind of concept artist are you?
right.
I focused on my ideas
hmm
since the beginning. I'm an ideas guy. I'm in pre-production. I don't make the pretty pictures.
Right.
I can do them, sure. Don't get me wrong.
right.
I tend to do that at the end of many projects, anyways. But I'm the go-to guy when it comes to we don't know what we want. Can you give us something that so we
Yeah.
know what we want?
Yeah. Launching point. Right.
Yeah. So I just say, all right, let's do it, and I just sit down, come up with loads of different ideas and sketches and weird things, and uh, I have a funny idea, or there was a story about when we did Alien
hmm
before Alien Isolation. We were playing with different scenarios and topics, what to make,
Right.
and I came up with this idea. It's like, okay, this father has bunkered in himself into a corner of the space station, right? And he's super paranoid about the alien facehuggers.
Uh huh.
So at the beginning, like of the game, you see these kind of humans running against you, making weird ass screaming noises, and hugs you and holds on to you and alerts the alien. So the alien comes and hunts you down, and you have to, kill these screaming people,
hmm
other, or you get caught by the alien, right? So you have to, uh, defend yourself.
Right.
So then one leads to another. You start finding the father's barricade, right? And you start realizing that the people that you've had to kill in order not to be killed by the alien is his prisoners. So he has cut out all their tongues because it's reminiscent of the alien double mouth.
Right.
So the people running against you are actually screaming for help, but they can't, and they're just
That's crazy.
and and another part is like for him to sleep, he has his wife at the door, um, bound to a chair. So if a face hugger comes, it will face hug her and not him.
Oh, jeez, dude.
So every morning he kind of opens her up and inspects her, then sews her shut again.
Oh,
Uh,
that's crazy, dude.
and I showed this idea to the guys. They were like, no.
You're like,
Hell no.
look, Bjorn. We like your ideas, but sometimes they're just too good. Okay, we can't. There's
Yeah,
no.
yeah,
Yeah, we can't. We can't sell that, man.
yeah. I know, but I kind of I really enjoyed pursuing that idea. Not because I'm morbid or anything, but like the idea itself was so intriguing
Right.
that like to get fooled as a player by screaming enemies and this crazy dad that has tongues around his neck, and
Right.
all these awesome visuals, very gruesome, but
Right.
uh, you definitely remember it, right?
Oh,
You've seen it
absolutely.
again.
And the interesting thing is that it all is based on like a core idea, right? And then you
Mm.
build the idea by adding more elements to support the idea, right?
Yeah, exactly. And the design will influence in what they look like. What is it? What are they wearing? Can you influence some more, kind of inflict some more emotions? Like the father was just wearing underwear.
Right.
Like he hasn't time for clothes. Like he's.
Yeah. All right, so Alien Isolation 2 confirmed here.
Say that. Don't
No.
send me any letters.
No,
That's
no, just
that's all
kidding.
a joke.
Joking.
I know.
Oh, that's hilarious, man. Yeah, that's crazy, man. Like and that's I think to me that's the fun part of concepting is that you come up with an initial idea, right? And then you
Mm.
build and build and build and add different layers to that idea just to enforce the whole thing, right? It just becomes so much more
Yeah,
complex and interesting the more you dive into it.
yeah, exactly. And in that way, you can design something interesting
Right.
rather than superficial
Right.
you've seen millions of times.
All right, so we you are at the 1 hour mark.
All right.
That's pretty good, man. 1 hour, you got two solid freaking. That would have taken me, I don't know, 3 years to do. No,
Warp tool. Oh yeah,
Warp Tool is amazing.
there we go. Right, I'm gonna try within this hour. Uh, I'll render the tattooist, the tattooer,
The tour
tattooer.
tattooer. Yeah, yeah. There we go.
Okay, let's do that. Uh, I'll show some trick about coloring. So let's go with um, basic uh, volume. I tend to paint outside the lines as a start, just so because I have it on a separate layer, I can see what's happening. And, I don't need to care about being neat because I tend to. Most of the clients always want the character separated from the background, anyways.
Right.
So I have to go in and cut it out manually, or from the beginning. But because this was explorational, right? I was experimenting with the shape and the
Right.
design. I didn't know what the end shape would be, so
Right.
I'll have to go cut it out afterwards. But that's okay because it's on a separate layer, so it doesn't matter.
Right. So your pen drawing is on a separate layer. Then you're gonna do the color stuff on a different one, right?
Yeah, I'm building on top,
Right.
molding the light. Eventually the lines are not going to be there. I'm going to merge them away. But the reason why I do line art first for most or everything I do, I hardly ever go straight volume painting,
Mm-hmm.
is because line art is way more efficient. There's no light and color information in that sense. No, I don't need to make a material behave in a certain way.
Right.
I can suggest the material, and the person looking at it will go, leather, okay, wood,
Mm-hmm.
glass, without me actually having to render glass.
Right.
So they can make that decision for me, less time of actually sitting and rendering something.
Right. Right. Well, and that, and you want the actual design of the character and their shapes and everything to portray the concept and not just the like material rendering.
Exactly. So now there's only see shapes,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, I would have done a value paint underneath, like basic value wash, like flat color,
Right.
dark
Yeah.
shoulder pad,
And
bright skin.
would you do that with color usually, or you usually just do something like that with just gray values?
Gray values first,
Okay.
because most clients they want to have an input on palette as well.
Hmm.
So if you choose red, they can deny a design basically because it's the wrong color, not
Right.
because it's a bad design. And you don't want to lose a cool design just because they don't like the color orange.
Right. So
Uh,
what people shouldn't get confused right now is that technically you're not painting in color. You're not thinking about painting in color right now. You just
mm,
have interesting shades on your blank values, right? Your colorless
yeah,
values, just to make it more
yes,
interesting for you as you're doing that. So right now you're basically going in and doing like
just one.
ambient occlusion style, right?
Yeah, exactly. And afterwards, when I have the kind of basic light direction, I'm going to start separating them in values,
Mm.
local values.
So right now
And
you're not thinking about light. You're just thinking about
I'm thinking about light direction and
okay,
volume, not about local value or what is it I'm painting.
right?
Is leather absorbent of
Yeah,
light? Is it glass reflections? I'm not doing that at all. I'm just basic volumes,
gotcha.
like a gray box modeling. You know,
Right, right, exactly. So are you thinking about light direction right now?
yeah, somewhat
So
like
you're
top right a little
top
bit.
right. Yeah, okay.
But I also want to have some fun shadows.
Right.
Uh, I'm painting
Hey,
over my
by the way,
desk.
don't forget to save.
Saved,
Save it.
saved. Shortcut.
Nice. So while you're doing this, another question comes up is like how do you deal with stress? Like how do you deal with like crazy deadlines versus am I going to have enough work coming up? Like what are some of your ways that you go about dealing with high pressure, high work, not enough work, or just basic lifestyle
Um,
stress?
I try to segment the problems. What's the word for dealing with problems in segments?
Compartmentalize, maybe.
No, kind of. Whatever.
Right.
It's you know what I mean.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So what can you affect? So if your process is too slow, you don't have time to do it.
Hmm.
Actual manually do it. You're too slow, or the client wants it too fast. You have to think of first your process. Can you speed it up?
Hmm.
Do you have too many clients? If you have too many clients that pays too little, maybe you need fewer clients that pays more,
Hmm.
and things like that. But I think the easiest thing to be able to control is know your process, right? How you paint things.
Right.
Because if you can master that in the sense of I like to do it this way, and you practice that way all over and over and over until it's like the back of your hand, right? You know exactly what to do,
Uh-huh.
how long it will take, almost down to like every 5 minutes. Like in 15 minutes approximately, I should be able to do this. If not, then I probably have spent my time
Too much
unwisely.
time on it. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. So that way you can control your stress at that level, your
Right.
actual input. Then you can by easier deal with clients. How do I market myself? That's a
Right.
separate problem that you
You.
shouldn't be thinking about while you're painting.
Right. Yeah. Well, you could think about like how much it's going to actually cost you. Like so once you get your own process down, right? And you know about how long something will take you, then you can start, divvying things up from there and say, all right, well, if I need to come up with one solid design, I know I need to do at least three designs to get to that point, right? I know I need to
Mm.
deliver three relatively good designs. It takes me about, this long to do one of them times three. Okay, it's going to give, it'll be 4 hours for me to do that, right? And
Yeah.
this week,
And that shouldn't be out of your own pocket. That should be explained to the client. This is my process.
mm-hmm,
This is what you will pay for. I will spend let's say 4 hours on designing a pre-final candidate. Then you will have an input if you
Mm-hmm.
want. Then there will be a final candidate that will take X amount of hours. And then when that's approved, the design is everything is approved. You don't have anything more to say about it. I will render it up and it will be finished. And the render will take this many hours. Then you can quantify it extremely well, and you don't need to
Right.
worry about,
And it's
you know,
tangible between you and the client, right? They know what
uh,
to expect. They know a good solid timeline for
yeah.
getting work
And they
back.
know when to voice their concerns about design, and not when you're like final touches, like, oh, by the way, give him white hair and make a shoulder pad. You're like, oh, you could have said that 10 hours ago.
Yeah, exactly. So, do you build that so how do you deal with redesigns and feedback? Like how do you build that into your time frame? How do you build something like that? Like do you even how do you go
They
about doing that?
they're free to comment. We tend to do daily updates to the client.
Okay.
They're free to comment, change, alter. They pay by hour, not by final delivery. So if they want us to redesign a character 57 times, it's up to us to have the skill set to be able to do that,
Uh-huh.
and them to have the money to pay us for it.
Right.
And it's up to the client. Some clients just say, no, don't want any input. Just give us a final design. It should be like this, and you should think about that. And then we just go, okay, thank you.
Right. But being completely open and setting
Yeah,
expectations from the very beginning is incredibly important.
yeah, yeah. I mean, of course, we offer, you know,
Yeah.
feedback round.
Right. You're like, no,
We do,
you can't. It's my design. You can't tell me. That's
yeah,
probably not a good idea.
especially when we are gun for hire. Right? You,
Right.
you you render someone else's idea. It's
Yeah.
not your idea. Of
Right.
course, you can argue for a design. Like saying, I think this is actually better. My
Right.
experience tells me this is better. But you also influence that by what you're giving the client. Let's say you're giving them three options.
Hmm.
You're like, please don't choose number two.
Right.
Then you have to think, why did I send number two?
Right.
You know,
That's a good
uh,
point too. Yeah.
why aren't you changing number two until you like it and that it fills the criteria of what the client wants?
Right. Right.
That's a healthy thing to think about. All right,
Awesome.
let's. I'll move on to the next segment. I'll
Okay.
paint over the
Over the color layers,
tint.
right?
Yeah. I'll soon try to show you the trick. It's a cool little trick I figured out um, that I'm starting to see pop up on the internet
Hmm.
by other people, mostly people that know former students of mine that
Hmm.
have shared the trick. Uh, and it's about using posterize.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a hack,
Yeah.
not as in a con man hack,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
as in
No.
a
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
computer hack. Like is it a 50s, 60s saying or a
Right.
hack?
Yeah. Yeah. It's all. So we also call it Jimmy rig.
All right, yeah. Uh, and let's see if I can get something down rather quickly. Um, so just flat color,
Hmm.
um, some skin variations.
Okay.
There's general rules that yellow forehead
Hmm.
because there's less blood, thicker skin,
Right.
red around the eyes and nose, and grayish around the mouth due to hairs.
Hairs. Right. Yeah.
Uh,
At least in male.
and females as well, in general.
Okay.
Um, blood flow and all these things, just
Yeah.
not hair. But yeah, so I tend to do it on skin tones, these color variations.
Got it. And then you're not worried about doing it in the lines at all right now either, right?
No, I'm just going to go over it in the end and cut it all out. So outside the silhouette, inside the silhouette, I'm fairly
Right. Yeah. 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 I just mean outside the silhouette.
yeah no. that's not the problem. Um, I think some red around the head to pop. Like maybe he has dreads on a disc. That could be cool.
That's pretty cool. Almost like look kind of like a Halo-ish.
Yeah, yeah. Like he's enlightened. Of course, the brother would have to have a similar accent,
Sure. Yeah.
but I doubt they should have the same placement because then you're kind of diluting the idea.
Right. Exactly. Similar but different.
Exactly. They need to keep together, but not share. And that's another thing, like design things we send to the client. It's like each design should sit in the same space as the brief, but they need to stand completely alone. And as soon as they become a variation
Mm-hmm.
of one idea, I tell them like you have to remove it. Choose which one of these two is better,
Yeah.
and then do a new one. Because they don't want variations of one idea. They want unique interpretations
Hmm.
of the brief. So you're not sending them same tough guy, but with extra paths.
Right. You want
Or
completely different ideas, right?
exactly, and to ensure that you're hedging your bets for a unique design and not just a regurgitation.
Right.
Anyways, let's do this, all right? Let's hopefully it'll be enough. So I do a gradient map.
Okay.
You can set the gradient map. Probably you know how this works, but
Yep.
you can go in and change the color of the darks. Let's desaturate it, and you go in there and change. So you can add in between if you want the gradient to take another color. Right? You can put purple and make a gradient transition between dark blue, which is the darkest,
Mm-hmm.
and then purple, and you can slide them around as you see fit. But this basic cold light, warm, cold shadow, warm light.
Okay.
Set it to soft light, lower it, and you're starting to get a little bit of like an influence.
Oh, that's cool.
But the trick is posterize, right? Posterize puts everything in segments in separated values. It doesn't look very interesting, if you slide it.
Right.
It destroys the painting. But you set it to color, and it's going to set the values, not affect the values, but only hue. And then you boost it to around 20-ish when you start seeing the smooth gradients start to band.
Whoa.
And you get some really nice little subtle hue shifts
Uh-huh.
that you can build your palette from. You see all these purples and blues and grays
Right.
and cyans in the cloth.
Right.
And
That's cool, man.
Yeah, I really like it. It's a really like sneaky way to get colors down.
Yeah, some like randomness and different color values in there.
Yeah, exactly. So here you can, I darkened it so it has more to eat or grab onto, so I get more clear variations.
Right.
And then you just start tweaking stuff. Start adding material behavior.
So then you're on so over that you do like an overlay.
In this instance, yeah, to lift more value design because I darkened it in general and losing some of that design.
Oh, so then you're just using a like a black or a white to like bring
white.
out or push back some of those values from that posterize.
Exactly.
That's freaking cool, man.
So you don't need to worry. I mean, I haven't really rendered anything.
Right.
I just started blocking things in, and the more I'm painting now, the more it's gonna move forward.
That's a crazy quick way to get a lot of like organic feel to it.
Mm. and also light information and
Yeah.
palette. The palette is, already there, more
Yep.
or
And
less.
then you can just color grab from places, right, later.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I don't need to go back in and guess. It's already the basic palette,
Hmm.
basic, and then paint on top. And another thing I like to do is use color dodge, um, and have like a mid-range, saturated, highly saturated color.
Uh huh.
Um, and with a soft brush, you just kind of blob in.
Oh yeah.
But at the moment now, it looks a bit broken because it's too cold. But I'm not worried about that because it's on a separate layer. I can just then go to hue and saturation and slide the slider around.
And change the hue.
Yeah, until I see that when it start breaking the gradient, where it dodges,
Right.
where I want it. Like, oh, that pink looks pretty cool, and brighter is a stronger intensity,
Yeah.
so you can have some sort of scattering look to it.
Almost like a glowy, emissive look.
Yeah, exactly, and that's just a big soft airbrush blobbing around,
Right.
and then you can erase parts in it. And another cool thing, it's very obvious with fill. Fill is actually the effect gradually decreasing. So the dodge is actually not uh, 1 to 0 or 1 to 100, but is actually gradually increasing the effect of dodge.
For Phil.
Yeah, and opacity is just opacity. The same amount of effect, just see less of it.
Ah, interesting. So that's the
And
so
fill,
so the
sorry,
opacity and fill do different things for different layers, basically,
yes, yeah,
across the
different layer
board.
settings. Yeah.
That's really that's cool. Yeah.
Oh,
So,
well,
sorry guys. I mean, the screen is just a little bit blurry, but I think that's our connection at this point. So, Bjorn, if you want to, maybe just when you're doing the small little details, maybe just zoom in a little bit.
I just zoomed in.
Cool. Perfect.
Um, yeah, so it's like a quick little tricks to
Mm,
speed up the process, right? And when you know this process, when it's second nature, you don't need to, the render becomes autonomous.
right.
Yeah. You segment the problem into design and basic grayscale value design, which
Right.
I skipped, which I should have done, which I didn't because of time,
Right.
um, for this instance. But I would have done a value design on top, you know. So we see the rhythm. Like I mentioned at the beginning, when you're doing thumbnails, a big, medium, and small shapes,
Hmm.
dark, medium, and light,
Right. Yeah.
and then
Exactly.
create the cool looking interaction between that. But as I said, also, I've done it so many times, it's second nature.
Right.
I don't need to do it. I can go straight to 3 design candidates and don't need to do thumbnail with shape explorations. And I can fairly do it, merge together all these steps,
Right.
look ahead of time, so to speak.
Right. So this will be great to go back and do some mining in later to so yeah, we'll be posting this up on YouTube, guys. So if you missed some of the things that he just did, you'll definitely be able to go back and see them a little bit easier and slower. He's too fast sometimes, man.
Yeah, I used to do it a lot faster with I'm using a Cintiq.
Hmm.
I used to have a tablet, and that was just kind of pure mayhem.
You're like, so
I'm going all over the place.
how do you like the Cintiq over the tablet?
I prefer it much more because I can map the line.
Hmm.
I know exactly how far I need to move the hand, uh, to what point I need to stop. With a tablet, you need to kind of project it. You have to react more, and I don't like it that much. I
Right.
like to see where it starts and ends, like physically.
Yeah. I
I like
think
it.
I think because I personally just use Intuos, just a
Mhm.
regular tablet, and I've definitely thought about moving to the Cintiq, but Man, I don't know. It's definitely a big investment. You know?
Yeah, but like I paint a lot, right?
Yeah, that's true.
You don't need that control in that sense. You can find, like you don't need to react or exactly know where you start and stop when you're using ZBrush in that
Right.
sense.
Yeah, that's true. Right.
You don't need that actual traditional mapping. Okay, if you would have clay and you would have some sort of 3D glove,
Right.
that would be equivalent.
You're right. Which with VR coming up pretty soon, man, who knows? Who knows what
Yeah,
kind of fun tools that we're gonna have pretty soon?
yeah, that would be awesome.
God, can you imagine that, dude? So dope.
Yeah. And these prosthetics that has a neurological feedback where you touch the artificial arm and you get a signal into your spine.
Oh, right. It's connected to like internally, right?
Yeah, exactly. The spine or neuro
Right.
whatever. I can't remember the name. And it's like an actual, when the robotic hand feels you, tingles. It's
That's
crazy.
yeah. It's
You
yeah.
need that for doing the ZBrush, like I'm touching. Right?
Yeah. The tactile response.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely interesting. I did a lot of traditional sculpting. So I started in ZBrush, and then I did traditional sculpting for a while, and then I came
Mm.
back to ZBrush, and it makes a huge difference to be able to like actually physically touch and shape something in real 3D space and not just
Mm.
digital, right? Like it was huge for pushing me to the next level just in digital, just to be able to, you know.
Yeah.
So in that same aspect, how do you feel about the difference between drawing in on paper versus drawing in Photoshop?
I like paper more. I've actually given it a lot of thought, and I think I know the answer.
Mm-hmm.
It's because you don't have the zoom or brush size difference.
Mm-hmm.
On paper, you actually just have one brush or brush size when you're using your pencil, right?
Right.
And you can't zoom. You can zoom manually by leaning into the paper,
Right. Yeah.
but you don't have the digital zoom and all these things where the density and complexity changes because you're actually closer to the pixels.
Right.
I think I prefer that with paper is that you have just one level zoom and you have to do what you can do with that
Yeah.
rather than. Uh, so in that way, it's the simplicity that appeals to me when it comes to paper is that you can just lean back and mold with a pencil.
Right. Exactly. And there is no like move tool, right? Or
Yeah,
warp.
exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then it's very. I don't never use a eraser,
Right.
so I just go with the flow and see where the lines take me, the render takes me.
So now what you're going to be doing is you're going to ultimately make this a mask to just mask out everything.
I'm just
Uh,
gonna cut it up.
I just cut it out. Got it.
Yeah.
But you're using this process to establish your profile, though, right?
The silhouette.
Yeah, the silhouette. Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Just I mean it'll change as I render. The render continues.
So
It's
it's
gonna be
fairly
precise
rough
enough
at this
for
point.
now.
All right.
Yeah, yeah.
Got it.
It'll evolve. Push and pull and tweak here, tweak there. And
So you're not too worried about being exact, like final
no,
silhouette at this
no,
point, right?
because the line art itself is not super clean. It's
Right.
quite exploratory and seeing what comes out and chasing the idea, right?
Right.
So I've been thinking a little bit that they use these runes or painted tattooed symbols to imbue powers. So
Uh,
this the twin brother that is the bull, so to speak. He's the doer. He gets a tattoo by this guy. He's like an alchemist.
Uh-huh.
So he brews specific brews that he tattoos into the body
Oh,
of
that's
his
cool.
twin brother, so he can fight different demons and monsters and enemies based on what he needs to be able to fight. A little bit like his potions, but here he's an actual physical tattoo. So in a way, he can't use the same tattoo at the same place
Mm-hmm.
too often because it's like
The
a
composition's different.
yeah, and also a cooldown, right? He's already
Right.
tattooed that spell on his body for that reason, so he needs to have the body heal
Interesting.
until he
Yeah.
can do that again.
So like different tattoos made with different inks, right?
Yeah, on different locations
That's
to
really
what they
cool,
need
man.
to battle.
Right. And that's the evolution of ideas that I love, right? Like so you come up with a basic idea and then you just like keep evolving it and adding to it and adding layers and then you come up with even more cool and um awesome ideas, yeah?
Yeah, and you can keep iterating it, right? You
Mhm.
can just go like, oh, wait, what if they have a sister, or what does their mount look like? Oh yeah, now the tattoo with Stardust, so they need to find comets,
yeah,
or
yeah.
whatever, you know.
Yeah, where does he get the ingredients? Like
Yeah, exactly. There's possibilities, to just come up with ideas as you're
yeah.
designing, and if especially if the client per se hasn't limited you, if you're moving within the realm of possibility
Yeah.
of that idea, like mountain twins, wandering mountain twins, or whatever,
Yeah.
if the client knows you and asks for your cool ideas, start inventing,
Right.
or you're just a render monkey. They're telling you what to design,
Right, yeah.
or do you have input? So I personally think you should have input.
Right. And that's a
Your
huge key difference between an illustrator and a concept designer.
Yeah, exactly. Somewhat cut out. Oh, maybe not the brother.
All right. Oh, so you just grouped it all and then put the. Okay, cool.
So let's put the background so it's just not crazy white,
Yeah.
so it warps the values.
Do you have a like a normal type of background that you use? Do you like base the backgrounds on your characters?
I base it on characters, like I just try to do somewhat as atmospheric, but in a way studio lighting
Mm,
or studio setup, like have a very mild background and not try to do too much because again it's going to detract from the design of having
right.
fire in the background.
Yeah. And unicorns and dragons.
Yeah, of course you gotta have unicorns.
You're like unicorns and dragons. I didn't know they knew each other. What the hell? Oh, by the way,
No.
your concept's pretty cool too.
Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, what's that guy in front? Can you
Yeah, yeah,
move
yeah.
him?
Can you move them off to the right a little bit? I want to see what the unicorns are doing with the dragons back there.
Yeah. Can you switch that layer off, please?
Yeah.
But
I wasn't thinking of unicorns in my story, but you know what? Now I really want unicorns in my story.
yeah, that will be a sucky situation to do.
I know, right? You're like, I spent 10 hours rendering this thing, and you want the little unicorn in the back that I spent 5 seconds on? Awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's
So
funny.
when a topic of that kind of and the process and all these things, one thing I notice with a lot of artists as well when they photo bash is that they forget the whole process of a big, medium, and small,
Mm,
uh, dark, medium, and light values and shapes. You need the design. You talked to before earlier that a couple of days ago about that motorcycle,
mm-hmm.
uh, that sci-fi cop thing.
Right, yeah, yeah.
and that's purely, the same principle, but photo bashing and painting on top. Uh, but it's basically, putting lots of photo elements mixed with paint,
Hmm.
and then mastering them together,
Right.
uh, pushing and pulling values and shapes and colors so that they're actually coherent to the design principles, like I would paint from scratch.
Right.
And naturally, you'll have a strong, readable design, regardless of approach. If you photo bash or paint or uh, you know,
Yeah, and, that's that's been a hot topic a lot lately. Like, how do you feel about photo bashing?
I think it's cool. I think it's just a process,
Mm.
but who's photo bash, right? And what's their thinking behind it? What are they doing with the photos? If you take the example of my mood boards, my collections of references to be
Right.
inspired by, you could do the same for designing, right? So you take a photo, like for example, I did like I call it the power orc. I don't know what the actual name for it, but I was like a steroid
Yeah,
orc.
we'll call it a pork.
He's a, yeah, pork. And I was like, he needs to have cool belts, and I don't want to Google Lord of the Rings
Right. Yeah.
or elements. What can I photo bash in?
Yeah.
So I was like, actually, horse saddles are pretty cool looking.
Ah.
So I started Googling horse saddles and like vintage horse saddles, cowboy horse saddles,
Yeah.
and the thing that they have in their mouth, whatever that's called.
The bit.
Yeah. And all these things. I started Googling those. I was like, oh, those are actually pretty cool. And I started creating this harness on this body out of horse saddles and bits and ropes,
Right.
and that is itself, it's okay to photo bash because I'm taking something and make it into my own. I'm
Right. Yeah. 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 It's not
forcing it
used
into
in.
my space.
Right. Exactly. Not using it to use it to augment and not decide what you're.
Exactly. If
Right.
I'm lifting that saddle and putting it on my tiger,
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
and I'm calling it done. You're
Yeah.
not actually designing anything. You're making a collage.
Yeah.
You're like a granny. You know.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
So you have to question what you're actually doing with the photos.
Right.
You know, what are you photo bashing? And of course, there's good examples and bad examples for sure. Um, but yeah, that's my principle on it.
Yeah.
Or thoughts about it. It's fine, completely fine. It's a process.
Right.
It's just how you do it. You gotta go
Yeah. I
for it.
get. Yeah. I guess the same thing could be said about kit bashing in 3D. It's kind of
Yeah,
the same thing. As long as you're using it to. Oh, I love the purples in that too.
yeah.
Like
You can
the
sample
purples
it.
in his shoulder. Ah, that's awesome,
Mm.
man. See, in
And that's
in
for free by just a big fat round brush.
right, yeah, exactly. And just throwing a couple of different filters on there and letting it kind of develop itself. And I love like the greens and oranges in the bottom of his arm. Ah,
Yeah,
this adds so much life to it, man. That's really really cool process.
yeah. And it's like I can zoom in a bit so you see the banding. I guess
Oh
it
yeah, the
takes 30
banding thing.
seconds or something.
Yeah,
But I can just freely sample it. Some purples in there as well. But it requires you to set up a gradient of values
uh huh.
and a basic uh, local color. So it's orange, pink, whatever.
Right,
And
right.
then what gray or
Hmm.
gradient map
Yep.
does, it forces a temperature change, and that's the reason why posterize works, because it needs something to bite into, right? It won't segment a flat color.
Right,
It needs a gradient that has change in it in order to band it.
right,
Otherwise, it just become a block of one color in the basic posterize
right,
behavior.
right.
So that's why that kind of buildup was needed in order to do the trick. Otherwise, it would just fall flat.
Tips and tricks. Tips and tricks. That's what we're all
Oh
about,
yeah,
man. It's
and
all about those
obviously
tips and tricks.
this paint job is very quick and dirty.
Yeah, yeah.
Didn't really zoom in at this point. I would love to spend, like, I usually spend a full day on rendering
Mm,
for a client, so you can spend your time on fixing the materials.
right. And this has
Doing some.
all been driven, like all the rendering that you're doing now, it's all been driven by that earlier process of setting up just your overall volume tones.
Yeah, light direction and local color and the gradient map, because the general light direction, what is bright, what is dark,
Mm-hmm.
will be cold versus warm in the gradient map. And then the local color will be affected by the gradient map, because you map the skin is pink, hair is red,
Right.
cold hair, warm hair. Is it in shadow? Is it in light? You get a lot for free.
Right. That's awesome.
And then you just kind of force it into place, in behavior and all these things.
Yeah. And so now what you're doing is these overpaint layers you just clip to the other one, right? So you've established the outline, and you can just go and paint
Yeah,
over some of those lines, right?
you hold down Alt key and click the space in between layers,
Right.
and that forces whatever is in the base layer to be the confinement. So I can't paint outside the silhouette of the base layer.
Right.
So like I can do this. I thought I could, because I was on the wrong layer.
Yeah, right.
Like that, you see?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I make a selection across.
Oh, there you go.
And
Yeah.
it won't go outside.
Okay. This is your 15-minute countdown.
Ah!
Too much talking, man. Shut up, guys. Oh my
Oh,
god. Try to do something.
yeah. Oh, always this talking.
Yeah, I know, man. Always with the talking and explaining and jeez. Now we can, if you want to go a little bit longer, man. It's completely up to you. So we'll leave it up to you.
I think the takeaway from this is not the pretty picture, but
Right. It's the overall process of how you got to this point, and some of the little tricks that you use to help you move faster through the process.
yeah,
Yeah.
obviously with loud music in my ears and in the zone, things will go way faster.
Right. Exactly. Loud music. All right. Go faster. Ready?
So I'm
That's
father
funny.
of two children, and
Oh, that's funny. Awesome
you
stuff,
have
man.
to be. You can't be too serious.
Yeah, exactly. That's the beautiful thing is that when you have kids, you officially get to be a kid again. You know.
Yeah.
I'm always
Lego.
yeah, dude. You get to play video games with them. And you get to chalk it up as family time. It's beautiful, man. You get to play with toys again. You get to go to the
Yeah.
toy stores again. You know.
Yeah. Play with your son's toys, making gunfire noises from your mouth.
Yeah, right. Playing hide and seek in the grocery store, man. It's good times, man.
So good. Yeah, I have a 7-year-old. I introduced him to Star Wars.
Oh, that had to be such a special time.
Yeah, I took him to Force Awakens as well.
Oh, did he like it?
Oh, he loved it.
Oh man, that's awesome.
Yeah,
Did
he's
he
an
want to?
absolute
Did he
fan.
want to be Luke or Han?
I actually don't know. I think he's kind of intrigued by Vader.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Interesting.
it's like interesting bad guy, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
But he's obviously rooting for the good guys.
Right.
But this Vader guy, he's so evil.
Okay, so I got another question for you while you're doing your speed process. I guess over the last 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes. We'll just fast fire some of these.
Shoot.
Um, how do you go about reigniting yourself and reinvigorating yourself as a concept artist that maybe you've kind of fallen off the bandwagon a few years ago and you really kind of want to get back into it? Like, what are some of the things that you may suggest that would help to kind of reinvigorate you into getting back into doing concept art?
Um, I think for me, at least, I think one of the cool prospects is that you can create a world, right? One of those dream clients, big name, insert big name here,
Mm-hmm.
uh, approaches you and says, "Listen, we really love your stuff. I think your designs are awesome. We're gonna let you design a world for us."
You
And
get to
you go,
play God, really.
"Yeah, yeah," and it's this mega company that everyone will play and experience. Right. So that alone, I think, is a really cool aspect to kind of
Yeah.
look forward to. And you won't get there, tomorrow, but the potential of that happening is there.
Right. If that doesn't inspire you, I don't know what does. You know.
Yeah. And if you want
I'm
more than
inspired. I want to go. I want to. I want to get back into concept art.
yeah, and if you want even a more tangible kind of feedback,
Mm,
is make a smaller project.
okay.
I'm going
Yeah.
to make an art book and show my ideas, and it's going to be a process of learning and a process of sharing. Right? Maybe you're not going to make millions out of the book. Maybe you're going to make 10 fans, but those are going to enjoy your world, even though
Yeah.
you feel a bit rusty. But come up with a cool idea,
Hmm.
pursue it, and maybe it will generate 5 paintings, 2 paintings, or 20 paintings.
Right.
But if it's your world, your ideas, while you're doing your 9 to 5 graphic design logos, and
Hmm.
you're dying slowly on the inside.
Right.
At least,
If
when
I
I
have
get
to look
home,
another font, I'm gonna shoot myself.
yeah. But when I get home, I'm gonna crack a beer and start diving into my world, right? And
Yeah.
this guy, uh, Joe, somewhere,
Right.
he commented on my sketch last time, and he seems to like it. Like
Yeah.
let's pursue it and see what that takes me. You know, and it doesn't. You don't need to rock the world. You don't need to be like amaze balls. Everything you do, but
Right. Right.
you need to enjoy what you're doing, and that's the most important. And if you always love Dungeons and Dragons, start doing Dungeons and Dragons stuff,
Right.
and while you're practicing your skill set.
Right. Exactly. And this the other thing that I like to tell a lot of people is do stuff in your portfolio that you want to do, right? Because
Yeah,
when people look at your portfolio, that's what they're going to hire you to do, right? So if
yeah,
if you're like, oh well, I want to get a job, so maybe I'll just do some props or something,
mm.
but you really hate doing props. Well, guess what you're going to get hired to do,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
exactly.
Like
Like
if you want,
I know animation and 3D and all these things, but
yeah,
you won't find a single thing of it on my portfolio.
right, exactly. Because then people are like, oh wait, Bjorn can do 3D.
Yeah,
Oh, come and design all of our 3D stuff. You're like, nah, that's not what I want to do.
exactly, exactly. So I'm not showing any of it. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
but it's important to have fun. I think be
right,
inspired by something, and it can be grand, it can be small, but most important is just kind of enjoy it, right? And find your pocket, your people on the
right,
internet, and
right, exactly. And
start networking and have fun.
yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the question that everybody asks is like, how do you get noticed,
Mm.
And
I think it's incremental. Like there was this website. I don't think it's that popular anymore. More called
oh
conceptart.org.
yeah, it was huge a while
Uh,
ago. Not so much anymore, but still there.
yeah, yeah. I had a sketchbook there. I updated daily
Yeah,
for 4 years. I think 5 years. It had ended up with like 3 million views,
that's crazy,
uh,
dude.
slightly under 300 pages of multiple posts.
Yeah,
Forum pages, 300 forum pages, full of sketchbooks,
right.
scans, and Photoshop doodles. I think I had a talk last year in a workshop called Industry Workshops.
Hmm.
And my kind of closing point was allow yourself to fail
Hmm.
And not for client work, obviously. You need to make them happy, but everything you do, personal, you have to allow yourself to fail, to experiment, and put your hand up and say, okay, this was shit,
Right.
but I actually like the idea. And I did mistake here, I did a mistake there. This idea was stupid because I took it to this place due on a whim, you know.
Right.
But if you never dared, if you never attempted, to allow yourself to possibly fail, you're
Yeah.
gonna stick in that safe zone. You're never gonna venture out of it, and you're never gonna come up with something cool because you're just like, oh, safe zone, safe zone. Ah, I don't want to go
Right.
outside.
Right.
Scary.
And so would
I
you? Sorry.
no,
Go ahead.
sorry. No, no, please.
Oh, it's like in that same aspect then, because you were saying earlier, like know your process, know what you do,
Mm,
how long it takes, and just
mm.
keep doing
Yeah.
that, right? So, like, how do you balance exploring new processes versus getting work done and just you know fine tuning the process that you already do?
Uh, Sketchbook, sketch time,
Mm,
study time. Don't study one-to-one copy source material. Study the actual painter's process.
mm.
Like everyone loves to copy Sargent, right?
Yeah.
This American painter. But very not a lot of people know that he painted each brushstroke by brushstroke, and if he messed up, like the last brushstroke or the first brushstroke, he threw the painting and started from scratch.
Jesus.
And when you do a sergeant study,
Yeah.
I guarantee that's not your process.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Definitely not your process.
Yes, so that doing a study is then flawed because you're just copying the source material,
Right.
one-to-one copy machine.
Yeah. Interesting.
It's a common mistake. I think it's important to think about as well.
Yeah.
You know, and you talked about the process and how to kind of try new experiments. I think it's really important that you do it on your personal art, in your sketch
Hmm.
blog or whatever. Like look at my experiment. Here's something I tried out.
Right.
Maybe
Exactly.
it will fail, maybe it will look bad. Don't put it on your portfolio because it's not a portfolio piece to show that you're experimenting with rendering techniques.
Mm.
You show the end result of those experimentations in your portfolio.
Right, exactly. So would you then suggest keeping like your blog or whatever separate from your portfolio site?
Yeah.
Hmm.
For me, looking at the portfolio of someone to hire, it takes
Yeah.
me 5 seconds, 10 seconds. If that portfolio doesn't cut the cheese, I'm just switching it off.
He said cut the cheese. That's
Isn't that
awesome.
a thing?
Yeah, if it doesn't cut it, cut the cheese means fart.
Oh, right. Sorry.
That's awesome though. That just brings us back to our beginning discussion, so it's okay. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Cut the mustard. That's it. There we
There
go.
you go. Yeah, 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 yeah.
There we go.
That's the
Sorry,
one.
I'm,
Mustard, cheese,
I'm yeah. I'm from Sweden. I don't know this.
It's all good. So that's interesting. And how would you suggest incorporating that into like showing to people, right? Because like, what do you put out there? Do you put out your portfolio out there so people can see, or do you put like your
Uh,
processes and your blog stuff out there, your development stuff?
Both. You want to show that you're experimenting, you're learning, and by showing sketches and experiments, you're also networking, right? You're saying, well, check out this idea I had. And people go, oh, that's a pretty cool idea, and they can take it for what it is, for face value, like an experiment or a test.
Right.
Uh, and then you go, oh, here's a new piece I worked on for a month.
Right.
And you'll go, oh, that's awesome. Put it on your portfolio.
Interesting.
And,
So, and
so,
you're not worried about like by having your blog out there, you're not worried about that really influencing maybe somebody's decision on whether to hire you or not?
yeah, because I wouldn't send them my blog.
Hmm.
They would find it if they Googled my name,
Right.
but that's fine. If you
Right.
say, this is my online sketchbook, don't think,
Development. Yeah.
yeah, this is pure ideas. I'm not trying to make a pretty picture here.
Right.
Then they'll go, oh, cool, this guy is active, thinking. I like this idea, I like that idea. Oh, what if we would hire him and he would start sketching our characters?
Yeah.
What would his experiments look like?
Interesting.
Or they just look at your final portfolio and go, "Wow, he renders quite nicely."
Right.
I would like him to render my character quite nicely. It's different approach.
So, like, would you think that studios would want to see like more rough sketches then?
It depends. I mean, it depends on which studio,
Hmm.
which client. Where do you want to work? What do you want to work
Six more
as?
vodka. How about that?
Six more vodka, I would say. Extremely important that you have good poses and character anatomy knowledge,
Hmm.
and very trendy sense of design,
Hmm.
and not a lot of far out ideas. You have to be very illustrative,
Right.
but
Tell.
very strong in design.
Right. Yeah, their designs are just crazy, right? And I mean, I guess that's another thing too. Is like, if you want to work for a specific company or a specific group of companies because you like that particular style, right?
Mm.
Like, you gotta understand what makes those styles, and then be able to do that. You know?
Yeah, help them out,
Right.
when they hire you. I mean, some people, start at a senior or lead position because they have a strong style and that's the direction the studio want to take.
Right.
And then they have people that'll adjust to that style, right?
Right.
Because the main guy will be the business guy that pulls in contracts, most of the contracts, because it's the most traffic, it's the most appetizing looking work, right? That gets the most heads turned.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
So it's not just like artist's honor, right? It's about business as well.
Right. Exactly. Talking about like inspiration to get you back into it again. Like, can you imagine being hired to develop because of your art style, and the studio basically hires other artists to work in your style.
Yeah,
That's amazing, right? That as an artist, you're like, that's pretty much almost the pinnacle of what you can hope for, you know?
yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Not to brag in that sense, but that has happened a few times.
Yeah, well, yeah, and that's totally fine. Like, if you've been doing it as long as you have, like,
Yeah,
that's, you know, it's inspiring to people that want to get to the point that you're
mm.
at, you know.
Actually, that's quite common in my line of work. Where you're at the starting block and you explore visual styles
Mm-hmm.
and how graphic is the visuals gonna be. Is it pink clouds? Is it rounded clouds?
Yeah.
Angular clouds? All these things you explore with art director.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. All right, we have reached officially 2 hours, so
Boom.
completely up to you, however long you want to go. But yes, it's looking freaking awesome so far.
Cool, man. Thanks. Yeah, I think I'll finish it at some point. I think I'll finish it now. I think if there's any eager questions, I think
Yeah, so
it's up to you.
yeah, I'll say
Questions
maybe
about it.
I think we've gotten through most of the questions, if not all of them, which is awesome.
Cool. If there's no more questions and time's up, I think no need to torture the people watching.
Well, I mean, we've definitely gotten some awesome real world advice from you. We got some really cool tactics for getting some good rendering, idea generation, core concept designs core concepts for designing characters. Um,
Mm.
Keeping things tangent between two characters and establishing like fluidity. So we definitely covered a lot today. So it's
Good.
really good, man. You're
If you're
making me
happy,
want to
I'm happy.
like get back into Photoshop painting and stuff. So
Mm. Awesome.
absolutely, man.
Great. If you're
Cool.
happy, I'm happy.
Yeah, I'm ecstatic, man. Ecstatic. This is What did we call it? The Lonely Mountain Twins? Lone
Wandering Mountain
Wandering
Twins.
Mountain Twins. Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
That's the
I,
one.
still haven't given them their tattoos, which is kind of bad.
Yeah.
I can show you one last trick,
Yep.
actually.
Yep. I definitely always have time for tricks.
A really, really dirty trick. You're going to be like, oh my God, that's dirty. All right, let's save beforehand. So
Yeah.
let's see. Save, so if it crashes. My PC has been acting up lately.
Oh, perfect.
Anyways, so blending options.
Okay.
Stroke. Let's say 3 pixels. You can always go in and change it. So stroke is whatever you put down, it's an outline, right?
Yeah.
Uh, so if you make a texture brush, the texture brush gets an outline.
Oh man, I've never even
Now,
thought about that.
now comes the dirty part. Let's look at this guy. Let's give him a tattoo. This works best at the sketch stage, right? So we're not going to use a color. We're not going to use a hue. We're going to paint with white on white. So we're going to get the silhouette. So let's go back and fatten that one up a bit because
So it's like instant line art.
exactly. So let's make a pattern, right? So we're making a pattern, and we get a wonderful.
That is so cool.
So you can make really advanced patterns really, really easily, and like you don't need to have perfect, chasing lines around. You can do as much as you want. You can copy it, these things, and it'll still have that effect, right?
Right.
And if you want to keep it and start changing it, because if I'm erasing here, it's going to start making another line.
Right.
You just make an empty layer and merge it, and now you can fade it and do whatever you want with it.
Right. Because when you merge it, it
It removes the layer effect.
right. Yeah.
So now you just have a pattern. It took me 1 second,
Dude,
and then you can take that and
that's like instant filigree.
yeah, it's so dirty.
No, it's not dirty. It's tactic, man. That's freaking
Yeah.
awesome.
But it's like you go like, oh, you almost feel bad that you
Yeah.
do it.
No,
And
you know
look at
what
this.
though? Like and that's actually applicable to a lot of different things. Like, um, you know, 3D. Like if you go and do like alpha brushes for some of your 3D brushes, you can go
Mhm.
in and make this filigree stuff like this really quickly, and then you can
Yeah,
just drag that shape right onto your sculpture, and like you have
yeah.
instant filigree. Dude, I'm totally gonna use that. Oh my god, that's awesome.
It's I love it. And when I figured that out, I was like, oh, I gotta call the guru crew. And everyone was like, all right, like stop what you're doing. Look at this. And I was like,
It's like 3 o'clock in the morning. You're like waking people up. You're like, dude. Dude.
yeah. So Photoshop, right? Then Bjorn, fucking go to bed.
Yeah,
Sorry
you're
for
like,
dropping the F bomb there.
yeah, no, it's okay. We're all adults in some way or the other.
Yeah.
Oh, it's all good.
I really enjoyed like this little eureka moments when you go, oh, this works, this should work, right? And then you
Yes,
experiment and you go, whoa,
it totally
it
worked.
works.
I'm a genius.
Yeah, you high five yourself, look at your
Yeah,
empty man cave, and go, oh yeah, that's right. I don't
right.
have anything.
And then you look around. You're like, oh, nobody's here.
Yeah. And you look at your cat, and your cat just rolls her eyes. And stupid human.
Rolls over in bed like to
Yeah,
to get you out of their view, right?
yeah, yeah. Turn around.
Yeah, exactly.
Aw.
Oh, it's so awesome. So, you're okay with me throwing some of these tips and tricks up into the thread?
Afterwards,
Yeah.
uh, I can write them down. I think.
Oh no, I'll do it. I'll do them for you. But
All right. I mean, as in sharing them.
yeah. So like
Yeah.
usually what I'll do is like I'll highlight a couple of the tips from the stream and just
Oh yeah.
include them in the thread. So
Do what you gotta do.
yeah, that'll definitely be one of them, man. That is freaking awesome.
I mean, I'm live here talking about it, so it's not like a
Yeah,
industry
right.
secret.
You're like, whatever you do, guys,
Don't tell anyone.
Don't tell anybody, anyone. You're like, we're live right now to the
Yeah.
public, right?
But by the way, it's just my mom watching anyways. It's like
Yeah.
one person.
It's all family members, right?
Mhm.
Oh, that's freaking awesome. Um, so I think we have one more question, and it's a little bit more of a finance type of question and budget question.
Okay.
Um, and I'll just read it out. I haven't really read it. So, would it make sense for an indie game studio with a budget of say €2,000 to €3,000 to approach Opus Arts to develop a game style? And how much would it cost to create a game vision? Like what? I guess so. I guess cost, right? Like for
Well,
developing something.
you have to break it down, right, into two chunks. So they have limited budget. They want a certain quality art
Mm-hmm.
that costs money, right? So we go by hour. So you pay for our effort in that sense, right? So you take whatever budget you have for outsourcing, and you let's say you pay us to do a key art that takes us maybe 3 days to do.
Mm-hmm.
So you pay us for 3 days. It costs X amount of money. Is it within your budget? If you need less, then you'll have a less polished art
Mm-hmm.
or direction, But of course, we want like think less of you because you're indie. It's a paying client. We
Right.
always put effort into it, whatever we're doing.
Right.
But it's just down to budget, right? We of course are friendlier in a sense of if you have less budget. Of course, we understand not everyone is a massive major studio.
Right.
But we can also not sell us short. It's a business
Right. Exactly.
in that sense. But yeah, there's definitely compromises, and we're always discussing. We're helping smaller indie games. We're helping. We're one of the few that does for Microsoft.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Yeah, I mean it really is you have to keep in mind that it's a business on both sides, right? Like if they don't have the money to do it and you don't have the extra time, then
Yeah.
keep that into consideration, Like you don't have to completely give yourself away for free, Like you're a business, your time is important, your time is valuable. Like think about like how long you've worked to get to the point that you're at and how much that's worth.
Mm. Just as a kind of disclaimer, of course, I speak from my point of view, and I'm
Right.
not speaking for my company
Right.
and the decisions they are making because my boss makes those decisions.
Right.
I'm
Right.
just saying, in my experience, what has happened.
Right. Right. Exactly. Cool, man.
That's why I'm not getting an angry email.
Yeah. Right. Like, let's make sure that we have a disclaimer, so that there's no fireback. Be great. Thanks.
Yeah, it's all good. I haven't said anything. That's
Yeah.
stuff.
No. Yeah. You've been perfect gentleman today.
Perfect.
Wow. Yeah. In the sense of what I would deem as perfect, because I said it and that was my opinion. So.
Your word is law.
Right. Exactly. Awesome, man. All right. Well, so I think that's it for the questions. If you're in a place where you feel comfortable, or if you want to go forward, it's up to you.
I'm cool. If there's no real questions coming in and stuff, we could call it a night.
Yeah, this is freaking awesome, man.
Thanks.
Cool. All right. Well, we'll go ahead and get this video processed and put up for you guys on my YouTube channel. And if you want to go back and study some of the stuff that he's done, that will be up there for you. Huge thanks, man, Bjorn, for coming and hanging out, man. It's been an absolute pleasure having you here.
It's my pleasure completely.
No, man. No, it's my pleasure. I said it first. It's my pleasure. Yeah, man. Well, we definitely look forward to more to seeing more. And are you doing like any classes or anything come up that
I think my CG masterclass is ended because it's getting quite old. I want to renew it, so it's going
Okay.
to be version 2. I'm going to be doing demo at industry workshops co UK
Awesome.
coming up, and in Croatia at IFCC at the end of next month.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have a big 2-hour talk, I think, about character design.
Ah, that's awesome, man. I'm so jealous. I want to go to IFCC so bad, dude.
You should.
So bad.
It's awesome. Last year was so good.
Last year was that the first year or no?
Yeah, first year
First
last
year,
year.
and that's awesome, man. Well,
It
so all right, if
was.
you guys are going to be at IFCC, definitely catch Bjorn and his talk there. It's going to be awesome. Keep an eye out for
It's
more.
gonna be a lot more organized with slides and everything.
Yeah, this we're just hanging out today, you know. Putting you on the spot and having you make sure you come up with cool stuff on the spot. You know, it's a lot different
Yeah.
from preparing for 2 months. So it's totally
Yeah.
totally awesome. um, so yeah, we'll definitely look forward to more CGMA stuff possibly in the future. It's definitely good to
Mm.
go. And yeah, dude. Everybody is saying thanks. If you, I know you're not looking at chat right now, but we got lots of we're not worthies and we're not worthies and thank you very much
Uh,
and you guys are badass and all that fun stuff.
Thanks, man. You guys are the fun part of being an artist in a dark cave somewhere.
Yeah, right. You actually get to see some light every once in a while and share some of the stuff you've been tripping on.
Yeah, and sharing and talking about it. It's awesome that there is this platform to talk to people with people who want to listen.
Right.
I'm happy to share.
Yeah, man. It's yeah. The Twitch creative channel has been insane lately, man. It just being having like a window into all of the artists that are working on this platform now. Like, it's just amazing. Are you going to be doing more streams lately? Coming up pretty soon or no?
My stream is very random. I usually drink alcohol and put on music, and just kind of
That's the Bjorn we like.
the meat flows, and I just kind of draw something and talk to people. But the thing is, I can't really talk like this because generally my kids are asleep.
Yeah.
But I stream when I have time for it, and that's very random.
Right. Well, we'll definitely plug your stream. So if you guys definitely follow Bjorn on Twitch here, and uh, definitely put on those notifications so that you'll know when he actually does go live.
Mm,
It'd be awesome. Cool, man.
perfect.
All right, buddy. I think that's about it,
Excellent.
dude. This guy's looking awesome. Cool.
Thanks, man.
So I'll follow up with you a little bit after this, and
Mhm.
big thanks for everybody that was here hanging out, and definitely want to say thanks to my mods Marcelo and Steph for all the help today, and thank you guys for all the awesome questions. Definitely helps this go in awesome direction. So and big awesome, obviously big thanks to Bjorn for hanging out with us today, man. So
Thanks for having me.
absolutely, man. Absolutely. Anytime, dude, anytime that you want to come back and hang out, man, you are more than welcome. More than welcome.
Awesome.
Cool.
Perfect.
All right, guys. Well, I think that's about it. So we will see you guys very soon. And yeah, signing off. Thank you very much, everybody. And we will see you later.